Good morning, everybody. Today is August 21st, 2024. It is Wednesday, and the title I got for today is The Law Converts the Soul. Now, this is exciting because if we know from previous videos from Isaiah chapter 6 that if you hear with your ears and you end up getting converted, that's when you get healed. And so let's jump to Isaiah 6 very quickly so I can get the full scripture in context. Right out of the gate, we're already off my notes. Okay. So here it is, verse 10. So Isaiah chapter 6, verse 10. Make the heart of this people fat, make their ears heavy, shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. And so if we know that there is coming a mega Pentecost outpouring, like what multiple prophets have talked about, we know with, I believe it's Joel 2, where the Lord is going to be pouring out his spirit. And I think it's Isaiah 32, that there will be a season of desolation, but then when the Spirit pours out, then there is going to be restoration. So we see all of these promises. Well, one of the clues of how we are going to get to those healings is that the law converts the soul. And it is by being converted that we are healed. Now, we've heard lots of different prophets talking about how we need to pray and seek God's face, that we need to turn from our wicked ways so that our land will be healed. Well, in order for the land to be healed, you have to turn from your wicked ways. How do you know what those wicked ways are? You go to the law. You need to have the law that will convert the soul, and it will convert the soul of a nation, not just of an individual. So if you remember a while back that Biden was talking about there was a battle for the soul of America. And it's true, because they were bringing in perversion left, right, and center, while Trump was fighting to bring back moral integrity and righteousness back into the nation. And so you see that clashing of who is going to obey the law, who is going to disobey the law. And eventually it will get to the point that the one who obeys the law will win, because God is a jealous God, and he is going to protect his own. And those that keep his commandments are his children. And so let's dig into where this verse is found. It's Psalm chapter 19, and I'm going to read from verse 7 all the way down to 14. So, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. Now, let's stop there for a second. So, the law of the Lord is perfect. That means there is no blemish. There is no spot in it. And then converting the soul, to convert something, when I looked into the Hebrew, it meant to return, turn, restore, or recover. So we're going to need a lot of that, especially over the last 4 years, but really over the last 50 years, we're doing this whole cycle. And like I mentioned in previous videos, that Jubilee was going to be conceived in October, and it will come to fruition in June of 2025. And so there was going to be that season, and other prophets have been talking about babies being born in the symbolism of nations being born, and they're also getting similar time frames, June, July, around that time of 2025. And so something has to start in order for that to happen. But even to get to the place of conception, there has to be a relationship. And so that's where, since Passover of this past year, there has been an opportunity for people to push past that fear, to step into obedience of his commandments, when logically everything on the surface, your flesh is pitching a fit saying there's no way possible I could do what you're asking me to do, God. And he just goes silent. It's like, are you going to obey me or not? I'm waiting for an answer. And for the people that have stepped into that back at Passover last year, they've been building that relationship with the Lord. They're building that intimacy. And then there's going to be coming a type of conception. What happens at conception? Conception is when life springs forth, where light springs forth, where something that was two separate entities now joins together as one. And so my Father and I are one. And so we're going to see something absolutely beautiful and amazing. And based on what I was getting in my journaling is that, to use the pregnancy symbolism, people wouldn't even feel pregnant, meaning that it's not going to be a difficult, awful first trimester. I think God had to clarify that with me, because for my pregnancies, I ended up with a lot of puking and even some hospitalizations with my early pregnancies. And so God had to clarify that little detail that no, you won't even feel pregnant. Because as soon as he started using pregnancy symbolism, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a hard season. And it's like, no, you won't even feel pregnant. It's like, okay, that's going to be a different way of looking at things. So with converting the soul, that restoration, that recovery time where something new is going to be birthed. And then the testimony of the Lord is sure. It's like, okay, well, is it just talking about what God has done? What does it mean by testimony? And that is what was written on the 2 stone tablets by the finger of God. And you could look that up in Exodus 31, verse 18. I'm not going to quote it here. And so it's the testimony of the Lord that is sure. And sure means to believe, assurance, faithful, or established. So those 10 commandments that were written are the testimony. God's 10 commandments, that the law that he gave to Moses, you can believe in them, you can have assurance in them, you can have faith that they are faithful, and they are established. And then it makes wise the simple. So you've got 3, possibly 4 different categories when you're studying through Proverbs, the different kinds of children that you can have. And God brought me through this back with my firstborn when I was really struggling. And it's like, God, how do I deal with the rebellion? I don't know how to be a parent. Help, what do I do? And he taught me that you have wise children that walk with the wise, and you'll grow wise. You have the fools, which a companion of fools will suffer harm. And you have the simple that will learn from when the fools are disciplined. And so the simple can learn through observation of the judgments landing on the fools. And we're actually going to see this as these judgments of God start manifesting, that the fools are going to remain fools. But the one that, I don't know where it is, but I'm hearing another scripture here that is correcting me, that there is a way to actually change from being a fool. That so if the rod is for the backs of fools, And the verse that I'm hearing is that by the blueness of a wound is the soul cleansed. Now think about this. It's through the judgment of a fool that the soul is cleansed. And so you've got a blueness of a wound. That's meaning like a bruising, that the discipline is enough that it is leaving bruises. And it is basically the equivalent of the olden days that when your father gets home, you didn't listen to me, you didn't obey my discipline, now your father's going to take you to the woodshed, as my grandfather would say. And if you don't do discipline the easy way by listening to your mother, listen to the law of thy mother, and that the father disciplines those that he loves, not those that he hates, not those that he's offended with, but those that he loves. And so by the blueness of a wound, the soul is cleansed. And so think about this in the sense of a nation being disciplined severely so that they know not to do it again. And it is also through discipline that a conscience sometimes is cleansed as well. And so you've got the opportunity for the soul of a nation to be cleansed. And what brings healing to that soul? It's the law that converts so you can be healed for the soul. Okay. Going off on a lot of different bunny trails here. Verse 8. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. Now, in the previous videos, we were talking about be blinded and be blind. And so that was in the previous passage. Let's see here. That was in Isaiah 29, verse 9, where it says, cry out and cry. And that was connecting about blind yourselves and be blind. That's another way to translate it. So if the people have already been walking in blindness, if the messengers and the servants have been blind and deaf, how do you get to the place where your eyes are enlightened? And this is where it is. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. So the eyes that were blind, the eyes that were dark, when they return back to God's commandments and to God's laws, that's how you get light back in those dark eyes. Verse 9, the fear of the Lord is clean instead of perverted, instead of unclean. And it's the unclean nation that ended up leading to the judgment of the deaf and dumb spirit upon a people. That was in a previous video. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. Thy judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Now think about it. We have heard so many prophets talking about gold, switching to gold, invest in gold. And we personally as a family got instruction not to do that. Rather, we were supposed to invest in the spiritual gold of walking into that refiner's fire, of learning God's commandments more deeply, learning how to walk in forgiveness. When you're living with somebody that is extremely angry and bitter, learning how to love them and learning how to love what feels like your enemy until such a time that they become your friend. That's a severe refiner's fire, but it brought out the gold within us. It refined our characters. It refined our compassion. It expanded our compassion to be able to fight for people's destinies while they were in the midst of their miry clay, to be able to believe, like, you know what, I got a prophetic word that there's gold inside of you, and I'm not going to let you go until that gold comes forth. And no matter what, I'm not going to give up on you. And we're not going to complain that it's too hard, that there's no way to do this. No, God gives us the strength. When we are weak, He is strong. And so as we went through that purification process and we were investing in the golden people and getting to see the fruit, it was hard work. Think about it. The prophets are talking about buy gold that's already minted, and they're some different ones are recommending different gold companies to invest in. Well, that's already done. It's ready. It's like you buy it and it's voila, it's there. But we had an instruction as a sort of a beginning point of all of this stuff, that God actually had us do a prophetic act of investing a very small amount into a gold mine. And it was even just like a startup company. And it tied in with a prophetic word that I'd done before. And when the name came up, it was like, ding, ding, invest in this, because it had to do with investing in the prophetic word with the same title. And so as we were doing that, God was showing me this whole story where some people, they just want, give me, I want gold. But how many people are willing to do the hard work of investing and digging, in searching, and drilling, looking for the gold, knowing that there's gold there? There has to be gold there. God promised that gold is there. Where is it? And to put in the effort, the time, the sweat and the tears and the financial investment into that hard, rocky ground in order to bring forth a harvest of pure gold. And so that was our whole thing. And if you've been listening to me long enough, you know that we live out prophetic words. We have very interesting lives. And so we want to be desiring God's commandments more than physical gold, because they will produce the spiritual gold. Because think about it. How much money, how much gold, physical gold, would you need to be able to buy your healing? And yet it's the law that converts the soul, which produces the spiritual healing, which will manifest into a physical healing. How much money can having a child being raised from the dead, what's the value of that? Spiritual gold has much more value than physical gold. And you get that spiritual gold by having the fear of the Lord. Verse 11, moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and by keeping them is great reward. For example, every person that I knew that kept Torah commandments, not a single one of them got vaccinated. The pressure was intense up here. We were told that in this region of Canada was the worst lockdowns in the nation and the worst lockdowns in the world. And yet none of these people that kept Torah caved. And God showed them favor. A lot of them, they kept their jobs when everybody else was losing their jobs because they weren't obeying the mandates. That the people that were keeping Torah, they had favor on their lives. They kept their jobs. And God gave them words in their mouth when they had to come up against the judges who wanted to condemn them. They were given strategies in their dreams. They were being told, do this, do that. And they were given all of these strategies to get through the hard times and come out the other end prospering instead of having everything stripped. And then those people were the ones that were redeeming the ones that didn't know Torah. They were the ones that were being the kinsman redeemer of those that had been sold into slavery. And so you see the pattern that there is a great reward to it. Verse 12, who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Now, if we go back to verse 13, something left out there. Because in the King James, when you're reading it, every once in a while you see words that are in italics, at least in my Bible there. Those words in italics are actually not in the Hebrew. So they were added in to the English in order to try to make the flow make more sense. Hebrew does not have the kind of grammar and all of those prepositional phrases and all those conjunctions and all those little fancy little bits and parts of words. And so they added that word sin in. It was not originally in the Hebrew. And so when I went digging into it, what it means is keep thy servant from presumption. Well, what does the word presumption mean when you look at the Hebrew? Keep me from pride, from being arrogant, from being insolent. And then don't let it have dominion over me. So don't let the proud, arrogant, and insolent have dominion over me. Another word is don't let them rule over me. And then the great transgression means great, meaning many, much more, multitude, the abundant. Transgression is trespass, sin, or rebellion. So when we have the fear of the Lord, when we keep his commandments, his statutes, his laws, his testimony, all these different ways of describing God's word, that it will keep us away from rebellion. Okay, now the next one that I wanted to dig into, because there was so much, and I know I don't have time to do it all in one sitting. Let's see. Okay, the next one that's sleeping off the page is we are going to jump to Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. Because if all of those things are going to give us a great reward, they're going to keep us back from error. They're going to keep us innocent from a multitude of rebellion. Don't let the proud, arrogant, and insolent have rule over me. Then suddenly Matthew 5 makes a little bit more sense. And also with the previous videos, as we're building on each video, that the law is light. Now, Matthew 5, starting at 14. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light, your law is light, so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. If we want the glory to be manifest throughout the whole world, let your light shine. Verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now, if we have shifted into the kingdom era, into the kingdom age, depending on who's talking, that there has been a massive shift from church age to the kingdom age. We're going to need to know God's commandments. And if you want to be great in that kingdom, you have to be doing them yourself and teaching them, first to your own children and then to your social circle. And another verse that's coming to mind as I'm saying this, I don't remember exactly where it is, but it talks about how 10 Gentiles will cling to the skirt or the kanaf, which is metaphorically of God's covenant over you. And they will cling to the skirt of one Jew, one whose heart is circumcised, which is Romans 2, verse 29. So the 10 uncircumcised hearts will cling to one circumcised heart and say, we can see that God is with you. Let us join you. And so we actually got to see this begin to manifest during COVID when we were helping other people that did not obey Torah. We were helping them financially. We were helping them with pretty much every sphere that God gave us the ability to do so. And we were able to then start through role modeling and through casual teaching. Some of them we did very direct, very detailed teaching of God's commandments, to which every single one of them said, we can't believe that's in the Bible. How come we've never heard about this? It's like, well, maybe you didn't read the Bible for yourself and actually believe what was on it. You might have had your rose-colored glasses on of all of your church doctrine and theology that when you read it, you immediately chucked it out because, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. And so when you actually read the Bible for what the Bible says, throw out all of your rose-colored glasses and believe what it says and that it applies today, that suddenly life takes a completely different perspective. And the people that did listen, we have gotten to watch their souls be converted, their mind, will, and emotions be converted. We've gotten to see marriages redeemed. We've gotten to see finances redeemed. We've gotten to see children that are a joy to have as children instead of holy terrors. We've gotten to see that as they have learned to embrace God's commandments, they start demonstrating their love to the Lord. And as you start taking those action steps, it allows you to receive the love of the Lord back. So this is actually one of the strategies to build on yesterday's video, that in order to receive the love of the truth, to receive the love of Jesus, who is the truth, one way to do that is, if you love me, keep my commandments. And so when we open our hearts to let our love pour out through action, our heart is open to be able to receive that love back in. So I'm going to end there. This is a good pausing spot. And we will dig into more of it tomorrow because I've got so many notes and we only hit on one little paragraph of them. So we'll see you tomorrow.